time for Measure Twice.
Welcome to Measure Twice. I'm Rob Perugini, along with Chris Kramer from C. Kramer Interiors and Joel Graber from Graber Customer Modeling. This is the show that helps you envision your home's potential, and you're listening to us on Michiana's News Talk 95.3 MNC. We're brought to you in part by Leatherman Supply, everything windows, doors, cabinets, and countertops, with a showroom now open in Granger next to C. Kramer Interiors and Hoosier Hardwood Floors, Michiana's trusted and valued experts on hardwood floors. You can visit them at HoosierHardwoodFloors.com. And you know what? The blustery days of winter are upon us. We got through our summer and the winter, and now it's
back.
It's back. But it's funny. This time of year, that warm spell, I feel like gets people moving around and starting to make decisions on, I'm going to do this, and I'd like to have this done this year. Now, I know by Joel's face that it's like, you should have been thinking about it in November. But, you can't change. The behavior exists. You know what I mean? Like, that's just the world. So we know that some of you out there are planning stuff right now for things that you want to have done so that this time next year they're done. Right? I mean, that's fair to say, Joel, right? You can feel it in the air.
Yeah.
Right? You're talking to people more about stuff that they want to get going, and spring is near. If you wanted a job started in April or May, could you still get on the schedule now?
For who?
What?
For who?
For who? I mean, in general, are you running up against it? If you're starting now, you're really starting in July, right? Like if you're planning now,
Probably, yeah.
You could probably get 5 months lead.
Depends on what it is, too.
Right. I mean, handyman work or some minor stuff. But if you have something major, the subcontractors are all.
Well, if you're just starting now, because you have to plan and.
Right. But I think sometimes people think when they talk to a designer or a contractor or a builder, it's that person. And there's like a long line of subcontractors.
There's a number of people that need to be involved.
Yeah, it's a long, like a litany of
and there's a lot of
coordinating.
There's a lot of details that you need to know.
Right, and it just takes a minute to put all that together. I think that's fascinating, though, because just me, before doing this and working with you guys, I would think, in my mind, I'm like, oh, man, I'm funneling all this into one person, and it's not their schedule. It's not like Chris's schedule or Joel's schedule. It's Chris representing 15 other people's schedules, right? Tile people.
I was reading an email. I have no idea what we're talking about.
No, if we were saying that.
We're glad you showed up, Chris.
Yeah. Chris Kramer just arrived. He's a designer in town. No, we're talking about right now with the warm weather happening, people started to move around. They started to plan stuff. And, you're probably a few months out. Like if you're planning now, you're a few months out from starting your project because it takes a time. And my point was, when they talk to you, Chris, it's easy to look at you and say, I'm dealing with Chris's schedule. But really, you're a representation of several other people's schedules.
Yep.
That have to all line up. Which brings us to today's topic.
Oh, here we go.
Well, I searched far and wide to find an article that we could make fun of. No. No, this comes from a place that you guys love, Houzz. Houzz.com. Mm-hmm. And so I wanted to have a communication show because I think that's important this time of year for people who are listening. And I came, and I was like, what are some of the things that you get stuck in the mud on with planning and things? And before I get into the article, Joel, what are some of the things that people get stuck in the mud? They get held up and in the planning phase in the beginning. What are some things that hold people up on planning their job?
No, just most of the time it's people not being able to envision it.
See it
for us,
right? they kind of have an idea, but it's just an idea. There's no
to be able to actually see it in their mind's eye what it is, because you have to, in order to have a plan, you have to get to that point.
Well, you have to be able to see multi dimensions. I think like it's three-dimensional space.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to be able to like, what am I trying to say here? Like, it's not just you're looking at it on paper. You have to be able to like put yourself in the space. It's not easy for people because they're living in their space right now.
Right.
And it's hard to think about it changing. I think you're right.
I mean, they think about it changing all the time, but they have a hard time seeing what they could get out of their space, or what do they need to do to add space, or
that's one of the services that having a professional provides, right?
Yeah.
Is that vision of what the space looks like. What are some of the things that you're seeing hold people up in that planning?
Decision making.
And how do you prep somebody to make a decision?
Chris
is like, if I knew
push
that.
him over the cliff there.
I love that face he made. He was like, "Oh, geez." We're not beating anybody up. It's hard because, it's with you guys when they make a decision. There's some permanence there. Like this thing's gonna be here a while. So I get it, but is it too much choice?
That's part of it.
In the beginning, everything is possible, right?
And well, yeah, they have an idea, but then sometimes they can't pull the trigger just because there's too many options, or they're not confident in their choices. So you have to have them overcome those decisions.
Right. I think that's a good point, that confidence in the decision. I think that's a good term for it, because it's not whether it's a good or bad decision. It's like that word confidence encompasses, am I going to like this later? Is it the right decision for the space? I mean, it's like everything is there.
Right.
And you have to give them positive reinforcement once they made a decision. I feel like in your guys' position, you're kind of counselors,
Yeah.
You're You're also you're craftsmen and artisans, and you're good at what you do, but you're also psychiatrist. No, not quite psychiatrist, but I would think counselor.
Well, you have to learn how to handle the client in the situation without being pushy.
Right. And every one of them's a little bit different.
Yep.
How do you prep a client for some inevitable things that happen on every job, like delays? Like you can't be Debbie Downer in the beginning and be like, all right, we're looking to have this done third week of June. I'm picking it. Third week of June. Do you automatically go in unless, we get 10 inches of rain between now and June? How do you do that? Do you just not address it till you have to, or do you speak about things that could delay the project up front?
I don't talk about that.
Right? Up front, you don't.
Not necessarily.
Because why address something that could not?
Why throw in a negative?
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, for years now, I've built in just extra time anyway, because you know that you're going to run into stuff.
Right.
But that's...
And you're guaranteed to use it pretty much, so...
Well, and that's when you run into those situations, that's when you talk to the client and say, we're back ordered on this part. We didn't,
right.
That's unforeseen, so it's going to kind of delay things a little bit. But that's you have
give
those
them
conversations
too.
Yeah,
like we can
Always.
wait on this, or we can go this direction.
Yeah,
yeah. When I asked that question, I kind of figured you guys were going to be like, well, we're not going to. We're timing this out based on what we know, right?
Right.
It's funny because on the House article, House, it's HOUZZ.
Because we can't be HOUSE. House.
Right. But they say holdups and time consuming and expense are holdups can be time consuming and expensive, and they often arise when unforeseen changes disrupt the project's timeline. Like that line right there is exactly what you said. They're unexpected. A delay is by itself unexpected. Like you don't go, we're definitely going to have a delay here unless you...
Right. But I think they're also indicating the fact that it's not just product delay. It's also, it could be the customer adding something to, oh, you're here doing this. Let's do this now. Now that I see this, can we add this?
Yeah. Right. And there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
Because that's part of the process.
Right.
It uncovers some things.
But that adds time.
Right. And I feel like when we come back, let's talk about that's not a delay is not a miscommunication. It's a factual thing.
Right.
When we come back, let's go into that. This is Measure Twice. Welcome back to Measure Twice. I'm Rob Perugini, along with Joel Graber from Graber Customer Modeling and Chris Kramer from C. Kramer Interiors. This is the show that helps you envision your home's potential, and you're listening to us on Miss Shannon's News Talk. News Talk. I made it like one word.
Yep.
Miss Shannon's News Talk, 95.3 MNC. We're brought to you in part by Leatherman Supply. Everything, windows, doors, countertops, cabinets. And their showroom is now open in Granger next to C. Kramer Interiors and Hoosier Hardwood Floors. Michiana's trusted and valued experts on hardwood floors. You can visit them at HoosierHardwoodFloors.com. We're talking about, well, some of the delays, some of the things that can happen in a project, and some of the challenges when you're working with a contractor or a designer, some things that can come up. And one of them is like, there's going to be delays. Generally, there's not always delays, but there can be delays. And a good designer, good contractor kind of goes into a project and builds them in a little bit because of your understanding of the market and how long it takes to get a sofa or how long it takes to get fixtures or how long it takes, like if there's a lumber delay on something, whatever. Yeah. You guys kind of know that going in, and that's part of the initial process. But then things come up, like changing. And Chris, you were saying off air, some customers, once you move a wall or do something, it uncovers, oh my goodness.
Yeah. While this is open, we can change this, or we can add, what if we did this?
Right. And if your relationship with the customer is good enough, do you sometimes say, I'm not saying you should or shouldn't do this, but while this is open, have you thought about this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course.
Because you probably see that too, right?
It is, that is funny because it is kind of like, for me, I don't want to feel like I'm selling people, but
right.
If I don't say anything and then later on they're like, I wish they would have said something,
yeah. Or, I wish we would have done that. Well, I thought about telling you that, but...
Yeah, that's worse.
That's worse.
I'd rather just give people an option.
Yep.
You can say no.
Yep.
Right.
Or they might say, can you give me a price? And then the price might be, yeah, okay, we're fine. Or, oh, no, I can't. That's not in the budget right now.
Yeah. Right. Right, because you are in that weird situation where you're not necessarily like selling luxury items. It's not like you're upselling somebody, they bought a suit and you're upselling a tie. This is not what's going on. Sometimes if you move an island in a kitchen, it might be an opportunity to move some electric or that because you have it open. There are things like that just can make sense that you can bring up and then it's their choice. It's not really the upsell situation, but it can feel that way if it's positioned incorrectly. It can feel like, oh, this guy over here, he's trying to like...
Yeah, every time I turn around.
Yeah, every time I turn around, we're putting another countertop in, or whatever. But those things can happen because you're doing something invasive in a house,
Yeah.
The worst is if you come across like rot or damage.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm sure in your careers you've seen, I've opened this up and now I've got some news.
Yep. Yep.
And that's how I'm interested. Do you, how do you broach that with a customer? How do you just rip the Band-Aid off, or are you like, there's no? How do you usually approach them?
What if there's rot?
If there's stuff that's bad,
there's rot.
Yeah.
We have to fix that.
Yeah.
In order to move forward, this needs to be taken care of because it'll long term you're going to get mold or it's going to continue to deteriorate, whatever.
Right, yeah.
And most people are going to say, "Yeah, fix it." You don't even have to. They might go,
right.
But
they're disappointed.
They're disappointed.
Yeah.
That, oh man, but it has to be repaired.
And I think that's a great point. If you do have a builder or designer that's like kind of wishy-washy about it, you know, I don't think that's you want somebody who's going to be like, look, I have to tell you straight. This is what's going on here. This is why it's bad. And we recommend, fixing it because it has to. Like that's the best. Honesty is always the best policy, right? Giving them the information. Because believe me, there are people out there that'll be like, yeah, you can fix it if you want. We can, do this or that. Quick fixes with certain things. I'm just saying you'd rather have somebody that just tells you what's going on.
Yep. Oh, yeah, you want to know. Sure. That's part of the job is to inform.
Right.
The decision is up to the client at that point, but you did your due diligence.
Right. Right, and it's not really
there are times where it's like, you don't really have a choice.
Yeah.
Or that we are going to do this because we can't not do this.
Right. You're doing a disservice if you were to skip over it.
Yeah.
And that's those type of things have to be done, or it's also this is kind of teetering on the edge here. We don't, it's not something you have to fix now, but since we have everything open, I would recommend that we make this repair.
It's cheaper now.
Oh, yeah.
Than it will be later.
Yeah.
Just, and then most people are going to say, yeah, let's go ahead and get it fixed because.
And we've learned that's not relegated to really old houses. Like really,
no,
you
not
don't
at
have
all.
to have like a 100-year-old house to have this. It's things
those tend
happen.
to be filled with more surprises, but
they're harder to work with. The older houses, but because it's not standard.
Right. But your house is working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Yep.
Stuff's going to happen to it.
Yep. I mean, it's not uncommon like to tear out a shower and find water damage behind the walls. And I mean, that's whether it's new or old.
Right. Right. Because it's water has an understanding with the universe. That It's going to
goes past of least resistance.
Yeah.
So.
And it's really crazy how you can see a leak here, on your left, but it's actually on all the way over because the water just traveled there and decided to come out, right? Like, you see that all the time, right?
When people want to know, like, you're looking at a project and they're like, oh, by the way, we've got this issue here. And like, oh, man, now I got to try to figure out where that's coming from.
And they look at you like, what do you mean? It's right there. That's where the leak is. And it's like, no, not really, because it loves vents, right?
It loves anything that's not airtight.
It'll blow your mind when you have a leak on one side of a room. Like you have the damage on one side, but the leak, it actually traveled down a truss or whatever from far away.
That's why a roof leak is hard to find.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I've firsthand experience with that, where the guy's looking, and we're in Arizona of all places, where it might take you 10 years to find out you have a roof leak there because you don't get enough rain to have a problem.
Yeah, but just because it's there doesn't mean that's where that's where the leak is.
Yeah. No kidding. The guy was up there with a flashlight for an hour, like searching for scarring on the wood because he's like, it's definitely not leaking here. There's nothing here to have water. But this is just one example of that. It's something that you pull back and you just discover. Do you so what House says is they're saying, well, in your preliminary documentation, right? And that's their fancy word for like your agreement with the customer. Do you address how delays would be handled? That to me seemed like overkill.
That's hard to put in writing in the beginning.
I mean, you deal with change orders, which typically that's any delay, anything that you run into, anything that's added, anything that you would run into behind a wall, that's going to be a change order because it was not part of the original quote.
Right.
So you have like how a standard practice for how you deal with change orders, but it doesn't necessarily tell you like Yeah, just the standard for how to address it.
In the article, they're saying like, have a procedure for that, and it's like I disagree with that necessarily. You should have, like you just said, probably a method of working out if the job changes. This is what it looks like if you change your mind.
So all parties know that this has changed, and then this is what it's going to be. This is the delay. This is the cost.
Because if they change something, you might have to talk to a painter, drywall person, electric. Like, depending on the change, it could affect everybody down the line.
Oh yeah,
and I think most homeowners know that and understand that. I think that there's probably a small percentage that go into a job thinking that this is going to be, they're never going to change their mind. I mean, they know themselves. They know. And there's no reason to not have a process for changing the job. I think that's smart. I mean, if you go into a business with a contractor or a designer, you should probably know how to change something if it's supposed to change.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that seems reasonable. There's no, is there such thing? Well, this is a big can. We'll talk about that another day. I was like, I just got fed something about builder's insurance. Like when you're building, like there's insurance companies that'll try to insure your process. And I was like, whoa, it seems a little.
That seems in the weeds there.
That does seem in the weeds. Like like vacation insurance only for your building. That's like not good. But when we come back, let's talk about if there's a misunderstanding. What's the best way to handle it? We'll talk about that when we come back. This is Measure Twice. Welcome back to Measure Twice. I'm Rob Perugini, along with Chris Kramer from C. Kramer Interiors and Joel Graber from Graber Custom Remodeling. This is the show that helps you envision your home's potential, and you're listening to us on Michiana's News Talk 95.3 MNC. We're brought to you in part by Leatherman Supply, everything windows, doors, cabinets, and countertops, with the showroom now open in Granger, right next to C. Kramer Interiors, and Hoosier Hardwood Floors, Michiana's trusted and valued experts on hardwood floors. You can visit them at HoosierHardwoodFloors.com. We're talking about, the communication, the process of dealing as a homeowner with your contractors and your designers. If there's challenges that come up, how to deal with them. And it's taken us 3 segments or 2 segments, and we're now in the 3rd, to come up with, if you plan out ahead of time, it solves a lot of problems, right? I mean, ultimately, we're all going to that point where it's like, if in the beginning, when you walk through, that communication process starts there and is open and healthy, it's not like you don't get disappointed when there's a delay, but you kind of like understand, right? Mm-hmm. And Chris, I don't know how many times you've sat in that chair and said exactly what I've just said. Like, right? If we were to say, Chris is a master designer and Joel's a master carpenter, really it's your master communicators first. It's kind of wild to watch you in action, right? And what would you say your style of communication is, Chris?
My style of communication?
He's very handsy.
He's a hugger.
Yeah. Everybody. So when you go see him, make sure to give him a hug.
Chris is turning red.
Yeah.
He's like, well, no touchy.
Okay.
No touchy.
Communication is important. Mm-hmm. And what I discover from people today is they like to email and text, which is fine for certain communications, but pick up a phone and call.
Yeah.
And discuss, because your inflections do not come through in a email.
Yeah, they're very cold in an email. It's hard to warm them up.
You need to pick up a phone and talk to somebody and talk to the client.
Or talk face-to-face.
Or talk face-to-face, yeah. But most of the time, it's initially you'll pick up the phone and say, hey, we got an issue. I might call and say, hey, we have an issue. Do you have time to meet? Can I come to the house? We need to discuss something. Joel found something that we need to kind of go over, rather than try to do it on the phone, because you have to sometimes. It's so much of everything we do is visual. Mm-hmm. So you have to try to communicate the process and the design, because you can send them a picture of something, but a lot of times you have whatever you can do to help them visualize the finished product.
There's nuances that you can't pick up without having an actual conversation,
right.
Verbal conversation.
Yep. It just makes the flow that much better.
Right. And it sounds like a simple process. It sounds like...
Should be common sense.
Right. But sometimes it's hard to practice.
It's hard to get younger people to realize that you can't do it all via email.
Well, and you're probably running into for the first time like that the millennial and Gen Zs are now buying homes and they're in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And my favorite is that look you get from a millennial or Gen Z when you're like, oh, pick up the phone and call them. That wide-eyed, like, what? Like, that's so invasive to call somebody. And it's like, well...
But you know, my experience has been, though, like when we have the real conversation, they realize how important it is.
Yeah, right.
It's just the initial...
It's the start.
It's kind of like a shock to the system.
Right.
You know, but because it's not something that they were brought up with necessarily.
Right.
Or how they developed their... Because even going through college, everything's...
Right. And it is, in a way...
electronic.
In a way...
And what you can do electronic is great because it's quicker.
Right.
But there are certain, like we talked about, there's certain nuances. You have to have that conversation. And you have to have a relationship. People need to know that they can trust you.
Yep.
We
can't get that from an email.
No.
Right.
Or a text message.
It is not a relationship, and it's not that they don't want a relationship, by the way. It's not like the younger people in Gen Z and Gen Y or millennials. It's not like they don't want a relationship. It's they want efficiency.
Right.
You know, it's not like...
And it might start with a text or an email, but the thing is, okay, you've taken it that point. Now the next step is call them.
Exactly. It's not
or go to or a lot of times meet them at the house or wherever. Set up a meeting via text or email.
Right. Sometimes you have to be standing over the problem to understand the problem.
Right. Exactly.
You know, and that's why my example is always like, well, your dentist doesn't email you while you're in the chair to describe why they're going to go put a filling in your molar.
Or why you need a crown.
Or why you need a crown. Like, they're not like, hold on, I got to go email you this.
Yeah.
Like, they have the x-ray and then they tell you there, right there.
Or I'm going to YouTube it and do it myself.
YouTube dentistry. Do you have to be licensed to work on yourself? I don't know. Like, you can...
Oh, boy.
Do they make small Makita drill bits to like...
I'm sure you could get something there.
Honey, hold my mouth open. I gotta get...
can you hold the mirror right here?
I'm mixing some bathtub...
Who needs a mirror? I can feel it there. I don't know.
I'm mixing some bathtub Novocaine together.
Novocaine, gross.
But that's the case in point. You guys both make the point. It's like the email feels efficient, but it's not a relationship. And why you have to have one is because you're rolling your sleeves up together on projects.
It's efficient for sending basic information.
Mm-hmm.
Right, or recaps. I think it's a great idea after you meet with somebody to shoot a recap text or recap email so that something isn't missed, right? And not to let days go by. And one of the things they say in the house.com article is like, well, it's really not that you shouldn't just use email. It's if you're going to use email, don't let days go by without the recap email. When you get back to your desk, immediately shoot the email that recaps what you guys talked about. That's kind of important. And it's not a race to see who does it first. So as a contractor, if you have a conversation with somebody and then you go back to your desk, send the email. If the customer beat you to it, it's okay. you know, like, hey, just reiterating what we talked about, then you acknowledge. Now you have, it's like a thread. It's called a thread for a reason. It's
right.
It's because it's one piece, one thread of the larger relationship that you have with that. And misunderstandings are going to happen.
Yep.
You know, have you ever, I mean, there's probably plenty of projects that you've done that there were no misunderstandings and no delays. They just got done.
Right. Well,
that happens.
Happens rarely.
It does. It does happen.
It happens. But every project, right, has portions of the project that went off without a hitch.
Yeah.
You know, and
that went to planning.
That went, right. But that planning phase, right, is kind of
very important.
Right. Who do you tag in? Like, so there's inevitably an email thread to every project. Does everybody get tagged into everything on every project?
No.
Oh man, can you imagine?
Oh my gosh. The subs don't need to know a lot of that. That's between the contractor and the client and designer, whoever the main people are that are involved.
Do you ever connect like like if a sub calls you and says, "Hey, I've ran into this problem," and then they send you an email kind of recapping what the problem is? Do you ever like share that email with the customer?
No.
You kind of keep that separate.
That's separate.
No, yeah, because so a lot of times that's technical stuff, or really like as a contractor or a designer, our job is to make sure that the homeowner is aware of what's going on. They don't need all the technical stuff. They don't need the things that are going to get them into the weeds. They just need to know what's going on.
Right. Because if you too much information isn't sometimes a bad thing. It can bog things down.
Yeah, muddy the waters.
It muddies the waters big time.
Yeah, and that's what, I mean, this is going to sound a certain way, but like they're paying you guys to translate that.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, essentially, that's one of the things you bring to the table is to be able to translate plumbing speak and electrician speak and cement guy speak into regular English so that people understand. Right. And I was kind of a loaded question. I didn't think that you were like, well, I'm going to pass along this thread and get everybody involved. That's probably not a great.
I mean, then we'd be spending all our time just trying to keep that straight.
Well, so much of what we do is overcome the negative, and you don't want to throw negative.
Right.
Right.
Right. You don't want to start that avalanche. Yeah, you get. Well, and think about it in your own life. You wouldn't want that either. You wouldn't want you wouldn't want your doctor to have your anesthesiologist talking to you about like all the things that could go wrong when you wait a minute, hold on,
Stop. No surgery today.
The doc's going to handle that.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, when we come back, we'll wrap it all up in a nice little bow for you on how to communicate. This is Measure Twice. Welcome back to Measure Twice. I'm Rob Perugini, along with Joel Graber from Graber Custom Remodeling and Chris Kramer from C. Kramer Interiors. This is the show that helps you envision your home's potential. And you're listening to us on Michiana's News Talk 95.3 MNC. We're brought to you in part by Leatherman Supply. Everything windows, doors, cabinets, and countertops with the showroom now open in Granger next to C. Kramer Interiors and Hoosier Hardwood Floors. Michiana's trusted and valued experts on hardwood floors. You can visit them at HoosierHardwoodFloors.com. We're talking about the communication end, and if you have a misunderstanding or how to avoid misunderstandings with your designer, your contractor, because things happen on the job, and really perfection on a project, it happens incrementally. And then, right, this part happened without a hitch, but then this part, something can change. And basically that communication, that face-to-face live communication is really the key. Don't avoid that. Welcome it. And I think that happens right from the beginning, right, Chris? Like you're meeting with people face-to-face, and Joel, you're meeting with people face-to-face. When you meet with a customer to go over a project, that initial meeting, how does that initial meeting generally go? The first meeting, like they called you on the phone, you set an appointment, or they emailed you, set an appointment, and now you're meeting at the job to start your first look. How does that generally go? You turned off your truck, you got your stuff, you went in, you're sitting with them. How do you usually get ready for that meeting?
Well, I mean, it generally there has been a phone conversation already, a basic idea of what they're looking to do. So we'll get there and we'll take a look at the space, get the measurements that are needed, go over thoughts and ideas. Do they have any drawings? Do they need drawings? What do we, what are getting all the basic information so that a plan can be put together and gone over.
And you're running through maybe a checklist, either in hand or in your mind, of like, okay, well, I can't leave until I have this information that's technical. And then there's probably a portion in your mind that, like, I want to make sure I'm not leaving before we understand how we're going to communicate going forward. You probably have to lay that groundwork. Are you a phone person? Are you an email person? How do you want to go forward with this?
I guess thinking about it, I don't necessarily go over that. I'll tell them, like, okay, so going forward, this is how I'm going to communicate with you. Not necessarily, because I have a way that I communicate, that I need to communicate in order to be able to provide.
Right.
What?
But you kind of lead it then. Like,
yeah,
you're saying, I'm going to call you.
Hey, I'll let you. I'm gonna. It'll take about this amount of time to get you basic idea, or whatever the next part of the process is, and I will contact you, and so that we can get to the next point.
Well, what I'm hearing is you already start setting up the compartments, the increments, and thinking incrementally as opposed to just jumping to the end of the project. Like, you are already in the first meeting setting up that this is going to be, there's a process.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
It's process
you start with the end product, because, well, what do you want here?
Right.
Right. And then it's my job to say, okay, well, then the next step is this.
Right.
Once we have an idea of what the end part is and what they already have.
And believe it or not, there are contractors that just focus on the end product and leave that process a mystery. Believe it or not, that happens. Chris is looking at me like, well, maybe it happens.
I don't know.
It's hard for you to envision that.
It is. I'm trying to wrap my brain around it. I'm like, how do you do that?
Dealt with that?
No, it's according to the research. That is one of the biggest complaints. And people, if you don't do if you're a homeowner, you're not renovating your house yearly.
Yeah.
You might do this 3 times in your entire life, right? So you might not know that. You might think that's the way it goes. The contractor comes in and is like, "I'll take it from here."
No,
I can't imagine.
Can't imagine. I can't.
It's happening in this market.
I don't. How? I mean, that's not how it works.
No.
That's not the process.
No.
I mean, wow. I'll take it from here. Why don't you move out for a while, and when you come back, it'll be done.
Right. That's happening.
That's HGTV.
It is HGTV. But think about the brainwashing that's happening on HGTV, where people leave.
What happens if you hate it? What happens if you don't like it? Because you weren't involved in the process.
And then you don't find out till the curtain's pulled back.
Yes.
Yeah.
No.
Right. Because in the research, there are some contractors and designers that were polled that they're like, when I get on a job, we talk extensively in the beginning, and then we reveal the process.
That is a terrible idea.
Isn't that is so HGTV?
Yeah, that's not. I mean, wow. Because you have to find out, especially if you're doing like a kitchen or something, you need to find out the functionality. Everybody has a different way of approaching their storage needs or their needs.
But the claim is that, well, in the beginning, if you hash all that out, it's not really necessary for the homeowner to be involved.
That's so not true.
It's dangerous. I
think that's a big risk.
It's a risk for both parties.
That's like when a customer says, "You just pick it out. I trust you." It's like,
No.
Nope. You still need to okay this visual. You have to see this and approve.
Right. You can trust that I'm not going to show you something crazy or bonkers.
But I am not going to just do something out of faith.
Now, Joel has the luxury, for lack of a better term, of having code, so you can't build something incorrectly.
You can.
You can, I guess. I guess that's an assumption too, because but you're not necessarily asking a homeowner for their suggestions on running plumbing. It's really just where the plumbing is. I mean, it's got to go in correctly. It's
customers don't bog themselves down with that tech
behind the walls.
All behind the walls.
Yeah.
All they want to know is, okay, I want to move my toilet from here to here.
Can I?
Yeah, right.
Or they want to know stairs. We want to move them from here to here. And then it's up to us to say, well, you can't do it that way because that's not going to meet code. We can, and then make the appropriate suggestions for that, or say, you know who we should talk to about this? Chris.
But that's the big thing is knowing who to bring in to do what.
Right. Yeah. Now, is it necessary for them to know the names of the subs and all that stuff, or
they should?
Eventually.
So for me, I'm typically in people's homes. So they need to know the people who are coming into their homes.
Yeah.
You don't just say, oh, by the way, the electrician's coming tomorrow.
An electrician, right, yeah. They should know.
You can say that, but, AJ or Arland or whatever, whoever is coming.
Yeah. I think that's super important.
And typically we have somebody there from Graber that can make an introduction. Or if we're not there because we have to be out of the way.
Right.
I'll be there to make sure to make some introductions and go over the stuff that needs to be gone over with whoever's there.
Yeah, specifically in the cases where people are not moving out, they're in the home. Would be crazy to have a stranger show up and it's like, there are two different plumber trucks here. Which one's here to rob me? Because one of you guys isn't supposed to be here.
Yeah.
And I think that's an important point, is that knowing who, they may not question the person. I think back at the insurance commercials, where you're slowly turning into your parents, and the guys are out there talking to the guys working on the street.
Yes.
It's like, well, we don't want that. That might not be great to be standing over the electrician while they're wiring. It's probably not good. But knowing who the electrician is, I think, is kind of important. You know?
Yeah, for sure.
People want to know who's coming into their house.
Yes, it's comfortable.
Yes.
Doing the comfortable things. And I think the suggestion to people who are listening is, if you work with contractors and designers who are willing to share who's going to be in your home.
Yeah, I mean, a big part of it, and I would think, Chris, you would agree with this, a huge part of what we do is based on relationship.
Yeah, it's relationship building.
And so we have to have that relationship with the homeowner, and then they trust the people that we trust, but they also, if they have, they need that relationship with those people too.
And now you know. And thanks for listening. We're out of time. This has been Measure Twice.
Podcasts by Federated Media.